If I may have your attention, please. At this time, we're going to begin the funeral services here in our chapel for Mrs. Susan Silverman. As we begin the service, I would ask if any of you has a cell phone or any other noise-making device, please turn them off at this time. Officiating the service here today is Rabbi Sidney Helbron from Temple Bethel in Northbrook.
Adonai ma'adam v'tede'ehu, ben enosh v'adchashvehu. Adam lehevel dama, yamav kitzel over. Baboker yatzitz v'chalaf, le'erev yimalel v'yavesh. Tashev enosh ad daka v'tomer shuvu v'nei adam. Lu chochmu yaskilu zot, yavinu la'acharitam. Ki lo v'moto yikach hakol, lo yered acharav kvodo. Shmor tam or e yashar, ki acharit leish shalom. Podeh Adonai nefesh avadav, velo yeshmu kol hachosim bo. Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, "Return, O mortal creatures." Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace. Adonai, you redeem the souls of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. Death has taken our beloved Susan Silverman. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Sue's love that united us in life and which death cannot sever, for her companionship that we shared along life's path and which continues through the tenderness of memory, for the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator, in joy as in sorrow, in light as in darkness, in life as in death. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bino desha yarbitzeni, almi minuchot yinahaleni, nafshi shovev, yanchini v'magale tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeit salmavet, lo ira ra ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha, hema yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged sorarai. Dishanta vashemen roshi, kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yamei chayai, v'shavti beveit Adonai la'orech yamim. Those were the words of the 23rd Psalm, which you can find on the inside cover of the handout. I invite you to read it along with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Esa einai el heharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, osei shamayim va'aretz. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. A woman of valor, who can find? She is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity and faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai Natan, va'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. Job cried, God has given and God has taken away, but blessed be the name of God. In ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and with the valley of shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. With Job, we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in her life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you have taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love, as we now say, Yehi Shem Adonai mevarach. Blessed be the name of God. now and forever. We take a moment now for silent prayer. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. According to the Talmud, Rabbi Pinchas Bar Hama questioned the meaning of a biblical verse. The verse was, Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab, the captain of the hosts, was dead. Why, they wondered, does the Bible use sleep when it refers to David, but dead when it speaks of Joab? The answer, it says sleep for David because he had children to carry on his name and attributes. But since Joab had no children, he was called dead. Friends, we know that there are many ways to create a legacy beyond having children. But we are also aware that having a child or three, being a loving and caring presence in the lives of 7 grandchildren, and having the chance, the blessing to quell over a dozen great-grandchildren, well, can there be a legacy greater than this? I think not. Together, Sue and Chuck Silverman built more than a family. They created a tribe. They not only raised their 3 daughters, they created a strong foundation, providing them with the lessons, values, and ideals that are needed to live a good and worthy life. Sue Silverman was born 93 years ago, the only child of her parents, Bessie and Leo Einhorn, who grew up here in Chicago. Her father owned a shoe store on Belmont in Central and was a tough but good-natured man who earned a nice living and looked after his family. Her mother, Bessie, was a wonderful woman who raised her daughter well. I think that the only thing Sue missed out on during those childhood years was having a sister, but I'm pretty sure that this itch was more than scratched in the years to come. Sue had a very nice childhood and many friends, and after graduating from high school, she was an excellent student, by the way, she earned a degree in teaching. It was around this time that she met Chuck, who had grown up in the same area. In fact, unbeknownst to either of them, she was in the pews at Temple Menorah when Chuck was confirmed. But it took the help of her college roommate, Thelma, for them to find each other. As the short version of the story goes, when Chuck came home from the Army, he was seriously ready to settle down, so much so that he went out with 27 different girls looking for a wife, but none of them was for him. He decided to take a break from the search when his cousin Thelma told him that he needed to go out with just one more girl, her college roommate, who had recently broken off her engagement because the relationship just didn't feel right. Well, Chuck gave in and asked her out. At that time, Sue was living on the second floor apartment of a 3-flat in Albany Park when Chuck came to pick her up. He walked into the building and headed up the stairs, and his attention was immediately captured when he saw a gorgeous pair of high-heeled shoes that were attached to a beautiful pair of legs. And, well, let's just say that by the time his eyes had moved up to her face, Chuck was smitten. He took Sue out for dinner at Al Gower's on Touhy and Lincoln and spent the evening regaling her with his trials and tribulations, not of the army, but of those 27 girls he had dated. He was clearly comfortable with this woman. When Chuck woke up the next day, he realized that he had made a big mistake. That rather than complaining to Sue about all the other girls he went out with, he should have been listening to her instead. He immediately called and apologized, and you know what she said? "What are you apologizing for? I had a wonderful evening." Chuck quickly learned that Sue was confident, self-assured, and didn't have a jealous bone in her body. And he asked her out again for the next night, and it was just a month or so later, on February 20th, 1954, that they were engaged, and in September they were wed. Truly a match made in heaven. For the first year or so, Sue and Chuck lived in an apartment in West Rogers Park, but as the family began to grow, they built a nice home with strong foundations in Glencoe. It was here that Helene and Judy and Debbie grew up. During those years, Chuck worked long hours while Sue watched over the home and their girls. Truth be told, even though Sue might have threatened her daughters with a "wait till your father comes home" every now and then, it was really Sue who was in charge of the child-rearing decisions, and Chuck who had wisely promised to always stand by her side. They were a solid team and remained so every day of their lives. The result? Their girls had a wonderful upbringing. They lived in a beautiful home, and Sue taught them what it took to keep it that way. She showed them how to cook and clean, how to sew, crochet, knit, and needlepoint. She used the knowledge she attained getting her degree in teaching to help them with their homework and to study for tests. And while she was strict, it was in a good way, which means that although her daughters weren't always happy, they adopted those same rules when they became parents themselves. An educator at heart, Sue was an involved mother. When it came to academics, having been an A student herself, she knew how to help her daughters study for tests and made sure that they always had a good lunch to eat at school. And she and Chuck were present for every school conference and PTA meeting. When they were old enough to ride bikes, they bought 3 Schwinn's, letting Helene and Judy and Debbie pick out their own color. And when it came to clothes, Sue and Chuck made sure that their girls were dressed as fashionably as their mother. I'm told that there was a wing dedicated in their honor at Young at Heart. And when the girls graduated college, each of them received a Dodge Camaro. And when they brought boys to the house, they all understood that the stairs up to the family bedrooms were accessible only to family. It wasn't long before their girls grew into young women, and in the span of just 15 months, they all married, doubling their number of children because Sue and Chuck never treated their spouses as in-laws. They were sons. And soon after, their family grew exponentially as Judy married Jerry, Debbie married Earl, and Helene married but divorced later. Nevertheless, the three sisters brought Sue and Chuck 7 grandchildren: Andy, Brian, Lisa, Lauren, Jeffrey, Danny, and Scott. For their spouses, Sue was sweet, welcoming, and wonderful from the start. And just as she was present for her daughters at every age and stage of their lives, she was a caring mother to their husbands as her family grew. With her daughters out of the house, Sue went back to work. She was a secretary at JUF, volunteered at Mother's Aid, and when Chuck opened a furniture store, rather than do office work in the back, she became his #1 saleswoman. In every situation, Sue was unflappable. She handled issues with aplomb. She was warm, kind, thoughtful, and helpful, a good listener and a good closer. And she knew that she always had the store owner's full support, regardless of the situation. For her grandchildren, Sue was their #1 fan and supporter, the consummate, warm, sweet grandmother who was there for their performances, games, celebrations, and challenges. And while she never stopped worrying about some of your activities, she was always on your side. As her grandchildren grew, she excelled to be present at 5 weddings, welcoming Erica, Adam, Brad, Haley, and Ashley into the family. And in the years that followed, you gave her a taste of heaven, bringing her a dozen great-grandchildren: Blake, Shayna, Tara, Logan, Taylor, Sloan, Hank, Max, Emmett, Mia, Ellie, and Vivian. With her constantly growing family, Sue made sure that there was always room for everyone, and Chuck always accommodated her, just like he did when she needed a dog. That dog was Daisy. This accommodation led to numerous housing moves over the years, both here in Chicago, where the size of their home shrank and grew, as well as in Arizona, where the homes only got bigger. But no matter where they lived, their homes were always handsomely decorated. Thank God Chuck went into the furniture business. Yet at the same time, Grandma was always ready to get down on the ground to play with each of you at every age and stage of your lives. And your parents, no matter how much they might have felt constrained by the rules your grandmother laid down for them, no TVs or boys in the bedroom, curfews on the weekend, no wearing jeans at school. Okay, that one didn't make the cut. But by and large, the rules that she established when her daughters were growing up might have been strict, but they also conveyed love and concern. You always knew that your parents were looking out for you and looking after you. And there's nothing more precious to a child than knowing that you're never alone, that your parents always have your back. Yes, Sue and Chuck established the model that you've followed in your own lives, creating more than a beautiful family. Like our biblical ancestors, you've created, as I said before, a tribe. Friends, I could go on, but I want to do justice to Sue, and I know that she was never comfortable being the center of attention. So the bottom line is that Sue was blessed. She found her Beshert, Chuck, and for 71 years they watched over and took care of each other. Along the way, they built a beautiful family that has continued to thrive because of their values and care. They have been wonderful role models whose lessons are timeless as a fourth generation is raised in the same manner as their children were. And I have no doubt that your family will continue to blossom and grow because its roots are strong and enduring. Sue Silverman was a wonderful daughter, wife, mother, grand and great-grandmother. She was a bright, self-sufficient woman who found her soulmate, placed family at the center, and left the world better because she was in it. She was a guten neshama, an eshet chayil, who will ever be treasured for her gifts and remembered for good. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. The memory of Sue Silverman will ever be a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Sue is going to be remembered by Debbie, who will be joined here by Helene and Judy, and by Lauren and Scott together, and by Danny, and last by Jeff. I'll invite her daughters to come first.
Before I read a letter to my sweet, kind, loving, and beautiful mom. Okay. Before I read a letter to our sweet, kind, loving, and beautiful mom, I'd like to thank Maria and Ophelia who took care of Mom during these past months. The care they provided was exceptional, and Mom truly loved them. Thank you for the love and respect you showed her every single day. Mom, how do we honor you, the most beloved mom, the way you deserve to be honored? A mom who is the first to celebrate Dad, us, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren, but never wanted any attention in return. Mom, you were and always will be our guide, our example, our support, our teacher, and our biggest cheerleader. We believe in ourselves because you believed in us. You devoted yourself to your family and led by example. We were your priority. But this did not mean we could do whatever we wanted to do. You didn't spoil us, you nurtured us. You were strict when you needed to be, and yes, you had some rules that frankly I was not in favor of. We were only allowed to wear blue jeans in high school when taking finals. For context, that's like being the only kid that can't wear sweatpants to school while the other kids wear them. We laugh about those jeans. I call them my lucky jeans. They're the same jeans I wore for every important exam in high school and in college, and I still put them on today if I need extra luck. If I didn't think that it would jinx the spell, I would rename them my holy jeans, because they do have quite a few holes. And my true lucky jeans are my DNA genes from you and Dad. The love you had for our family was bigger than life, and we are all the most fortunate beneficiaries of that love. You loved Dad most of all and set the most beautiful example that we all strive to emulate. We learned about love, marriage, respect, responsibility, and honesty from the two of you. These may sound like only words, but they were the fiber of your being. And these values that you instilled in us, we will carry on forever. You and Dad taught us to respect authority, even if we didn't agree. I learned this one the hard way, but I never forgot it. We learned that marriage is a true partnership where parents present a united front. Helene, Judy, and I didn't compete against one another, we supported one another. We learned how to be the best daughter, the best friend, the best sister, the best wife, best daughter-in-law, best mother-in-law, and best grandmother that we can be by watching you and consulting with you. While these past couple of years were challenging, we still confided in one another, and those are moments I cherish. Even when it became difficult to speak, you'd listen to me, you'd smile, your big, beautiful smile. When I asked you how you were on any given day, your response was always, fine. We both knew you weren't fine, but you didn't complain, you never were a complainer, and you didn't want to upset me. You were still protecting me. Besides telling one another I love you infinities every day, one of the last things you told me is a beautiful example of your pure soul. It was difficult for you to talk, your body was getting stiff, and you were clearly frustrated. I was telling you something I was excited for, and you looked at me, you used all your strength and said, I'm happy for you. Mom, you were always happy for others, never, ever envious. You and Dad told us that one thing that lives on after we are gone is our reputation. You said it takes a lifetime to build a good reputation, and it can be destroyed in a moment. Mom, I have received countless emails, phone calls, and text messages, and I want to share with you the reputation you are leaving behind. These are the words of those who knew and loved you. Wonderful, warm, kind, special, loving, adored, sweet, lovely, fine, incredible, good, grounded, authentic, no affect or facades, solid values, warm, sincere, caring, genuine, interesting, always smiling, a true example of grace and kindness. Mom, you now live in our hearts and in our heads next to Nan and Papa. That will never change. And as you used to sing to our kids when it was time to part, so long, farewell, la 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 la. We'll never say goodbye. I love you infinity, infinities.
Lador Vador was always my favorite Hebrew phrase. It means from generation to generation. My connection to this expression is deeply rooted in my connection to Grandma and Papa. In conversations yesterday, I learned that everyone in our family feels the same connection towards Grandma and Papa. They presented us with the perfect example of true love and partnership. They were the ultimate united front, and their love and support for one another never wavered. Yes, dear, was a constant back and forth in their communication.
Beyond their beautiful marriage, as an only child, Grandma always dreamed of having a big family filled with lots of love and laughter. So she created that family with Papa, and we are so blessed to be part of it. Lador Vador. She taught us so much. She was there for us grandchildren every step of the way, bringing with her a layer of warmth and fun that was special and unique to Grandma.
Grandma never hesitated to play on the floor with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She even taught some of us to knit with remarkable patience. She loved babies and was always ecstatic when new babies joined the family. She lived so many years making amazing memories with us all, and for that, we are forever grateful.
Lador Vador. Grandma passed many important lessons on to us all.
Zip your coats when you leave the house, especially today.
Bring your babushka when it rains.
Chocolate is better than vanilla, and if it's brown, it must be good.
Dogs are absolutely man's best friends.
Never leave the house without your lipstick.
The first one that bothers me gets it.
If you lick all the cookie dough, you probably don't have to wash the dish.
And to never say goodbye, instead, choose a fun song and dance at the door.
Take care of future generations that follow. L'adore Vidor.
We are forever grateful to Grandma and Papa for all you have done for us over the years.
We would even say infinitely grateful. We promise to pass along your love, lessons, wisdom, and support. We love you, infinity, infinities.
Grandma Sue was the consummate loving grandmother, like from a fairy tale. She was gentle, warm, and completely dedicated to her family. We hit the grandmother jackpot. To quote Papa Chuck, she was an 11 out of 10. While she was all of these qualities without exception, we've come to appreciate her for so much more than that. She was a beautifully principled and influential wife, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother who steadfastly lived those values. Those values are, but not limited to, education, protection, family tradition, dignity. Those are heavy foundational life pillars. She delivered those through genuine warmth, love, and quiet strength. It was a subtle but powerful force that is manifesting through generations. Grandma Sue and Papa Chuck's amazing marriage and selfless commitment to each other and family is the moral bedrock and example upon which we are building our own families and seek to instill in next generations. Like most fairy tales, this one too is bittersweet. We will always love you and miss you dearly, Grandma, but the happy ending is that your legacy thrives in all of us. And yes, Grandma, I will always be your baby.
So I am grandchild number 5, and a grandchild who adored my grandmother, so much so that I tried to follow in her footsteps in many ways. And there's 3 I want to share with you today. They all start with L. There's it's just a coincidence. But the 3 L's are luck, loyalty, and lucrative. I'll get to that last one later. Luck, this is just dumb luck, but just like my grandma, I won the lottery and had 3 daughters of my own. And the amount of joy I get from my girls, I can now stand in the shoes of my grandparents and how lucky I am to have 3 daughters like her. And to see how close my mom and her sisters have always been, always there for each other. Over the last few years when things got harder, standing by my grandmother's side, everything, especially Judy and Debbie, what you've done for Grandma, being there for her, it's amazing. And Mom, I know you would do that too if you lived here. I just feel so grateful that I have something that she had, the 3 daughters. Loyalty, 71 years, unbelievable. And it's not even just the number; it's the relationship you had. I honestly can't think of a time that you two weren't together. It was Grandma and Papa every time, always together, and instilled in me that your spouse is number one. You don't always have to agree, but your spouse is number one, and that's what I try to do every day too. Okay, so for those who are taking notes, you're probably like, what's the lucrative thing? So let me tell you, lucrative. So I started a new job yesterday. I opened a new company called Sue's Stews. And the only thing we're gonna sell is casseroles of spaghetti with hot dogs inside. Now you may be thinking, that's an odd combination. Who sat down with a bowl of spaghetti and said, you know what this needs? This needs a little bit of hot dog. But that was her specialty, and we loved that dish. But my favorite part about the spaghetti and hot dogs wasn't just the food. It was the company that we always shared it with. That was a signature family dish, and those were moments that I'll always cherish. I'm so grateful to have had a grandmother like Grandma Sue. Just what I think today is just a life well lived, a legacy well laid, and my love to my grandmother.
Lucrative, not necessarily always financial, but with heart and with family, and that is certainly clear and evident. Thank you, each of you, for these beautiful, loving tributes. Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of Sue Silverman. For you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, God, are with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope in eternity. I'll ask us to rise now for our memorial prayer. El Malay Rachamim, Shochin Bamromim, Hamtsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utorim, Gezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Sima Bat Akiva Leib, Shahalcha Le'olama. Bal Harachamim Yastireha Beseta Kanafav Le'olamim, Vitzror Bitzror HaChayim Et Nishmata. Adonai Hu Nachalata, V'tanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkava, V'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Susan Silverman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
This concludes the service here in our chapel. The interment will take place immediately at the family's plots at West Lawn Cemetery, 7801 West Montrose in Norwich. Following the interment today, the family invites all of you to join them at Max and Benny's, 461 Waukegan Road in Northbrook. They'll be there from 3 until 7. That information's on the inside portion of the funeral service folder. If you did not receive one, they are available as you depart today. I'd also ask you to please take note in the service folder, the family has asked that memorial contributions be made to the JCFS, the Jewish Child and Family Services. That information's in the folder as well. For those of you watching the service online, all of this information is on the website you're currently on. For those of you joining the family in procession, the procession will form in our parking lot. Please make sure you have an orange funeral safety sticker. That sticker should be placed in the front passenger side of your windshield. We would also ask that you please have your bright headlights and flashing hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags on the tops of the cars. As we drive in procession today, please drive as close as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you at all times. We want to avoid having any large spaces or large gaps in the procession, particularly as we pass through the intersections. Serving as pallbearers today will be the grandchildren. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise as the deceased and her family and Rabbi are escorted from the chapel. Pallbearers, please step forward.